podcast studio. I'm your guide, Marcus Murray, and I'm so excited that we get a chance to talk about the opposite of blame, which is accepting responsibility. What's interesting in our last episode, one of the things that we went over in great detail were the negative effects of blaming others versus accepting personal responsibility. And we talked about the fact that when we actually blame or point the finger in a different direction other than at ourselves, we're actually relinquishing power, the personal power that's needed to not just develop as a person, but the power that's needed to actually excel. The reason this is so important, especially in today's culture, if we just pay attention, just take a quick look at some of the things that are going on in our culture, in our nation, and on the streets of America, we can see that there is clearly a problem. The question is, who's going to accept responsibility for the problem, and what are we going to do moving forward? As you know, on our podcast, one of the things that we spend a great deal of time talking about, reflecting on, journaling on is the reality that we have more years behind us in most cases than ahead of us. All things being equal, I would have to be 120 years old to have more years ahead of me than behind me. So therefore, I have to recognize, since I'm not going to be 120, I have to recognize that I do have more years behind me than ahead of me. So what am I going to do? And how am I going to make a difference now? If we look at the mayhem, the absolute pandemonium and mayhem that is plaguing our streets, our inner cities, many of our workplaces, we can clearly see that there is a breakdown. And I would submit to you that instead of us taking the position that for whatever reason, there's nothing that we could do, I would submit to you that what we actually need to do is recognize when something is broken, it does not mean that it's irreparable and that it cannot be fixed. If you think about it, even when our cars break down, it is not a common occurrence to say, "Oh, my car is broken." What do we do when the car is broken? We send the car to the shop, right? We get some experts in on the matter. We don't give up on the car. We fix the car in most cases. Now, there are some times when the car is in a condition that it's unfixable, but in most instances, unless the car is in absolute disrepair, we typically will fix the car. I believe that our country and our society and our culture is in need of a tune up. And you, not someone else, you are the person that's been empowered and equipped with wisdom, experience, and experiential knowledge to be able to help make a change. All of us have to step up to the plate, right? So, how do we do this? Because it can seem like such an overwhelming task. I'll tell you, I watched the news for probably an hour, and I wish I had not spent an hour of my mind time on that, but I had to see it. And I wanted to kind of appreciate the magnitude of the problem. Because once I actually looked, there were not commercials, but there were reels that were running on cable television talking about mayhem in one of America's cities. And it was so absolutely disturbing that there was no way in the world that I could be silent on the fact that the system itself is not broken, but we are a society filled with broken people. What do we do? Do we throw all the people away? Do we throw away everyone that looks like those people? What do we do? Because this is a problem. Well, being the people that we are, called to lead, called to take responsibility, it is now time for us all to step up. And this is what I've been saying for the last 60 episodes, that wisdom cannot be silent, that we can't just sit idly by and let the fools run wild. We can't defer our responsibility and the position that we've been given in life, and in society. It would be amazing. Can you imagine we all just sit back and just watch madness unfold and escalate? Because the thing about behavior doesn't retreat. Unchecked behavior escalates. When you encounter a person, I know you've experienced this, I've experienced it. When you've encountered a person that disrespects you just this much in one encounter, typically in the next encounter, they're going to disrespect you this much. It's the nature of a human. From childhood, we're always testing boundaries and limits. So, in order for us to course correct where we're at, it is critical that we recognize the transformation that we are all experiencing together on the No Time to Waste podcast. It's not just a transformation for personal achievement and financial gain. Forget that. Because guess what? In the midst of chaos, confusion, and absolute madness, societal pandemonium, money can only do one thing: help you find a place to run, right? But we're not retreating from what some people call the world's greatest experiment, the American experiment. It actually works. It works. People, disenfranchised people from all over the world, legally came to America, applied, got accepted, waited a long time. My wife came from another country. And my wife, who's now an American citizen, has had an opportunity to come and build from the bottom. We started with nothing, not something, nothing. We probably were at negative nothing. And the reason we were at negative nothing was not because of her. We were at negative nothing because of me. I actually brought um, um, a broken concept, a broken economic concept. When I married, we were in debt. My wife was not in debt before she married me. She was indebted after she married me because she married a guy that had not been trained on how to properly manage resources. So, as a result of that, we were able to marry. And when we did, um, we started with nothing, or as I was saying, less than nothing. Well, what does that actually mean? And what does that look like? We could not defer our responsibility for hard work. We actually worked multiple jobs. As a matter of fact, at one of my jobs, I was making $11 an hour. At another job, I was making $16 an hour. My wife and I both actually at the time were registered nurses, and we were working other jobs in hospitals. I remember at one point I had 3 jobs, she had 3 jobs. And we used to jokingly say that we were like people from cultures that have multiple jobs. And we were proud of it. We weren't angry. We weren't hostile. We didn't feel like the people that owned the hospitals or the people that owned the companies owed us something other than our wages. But all of a sudden, we have allowed a societal twist to actually impact all of us, where all of a sudden everyone, even people with jobs, they don't feel like they should be paid for their job. In a majority of cases, many people, maybe not majority, I'd say 25% of the people that are in America's workforce right now feel entitled to more. It doesn't matter the actual economics of the thing, they just want more. They actually want what they haven't earned. So, I often tell people that have jobs, let's say you don't like your job, you open a business. Open a business because you're actually holding the seat of a person that's looking for a job. If the job no longer meets your standard, if the job no longer fulfills your internal need or provides you with what you're looking for, open a business. The way that it works, my wife and I have been married now for 31 years. This was probably the best business decision I ever made in my life, without question. We've been in business together for 30 years. We had little businesses that made no money. We had businesses that failed. We had businesses that cost us. Um, but at the end of the day, because we never quit, we won. And but are we free? Are we done? No, no. Because remember, I'm only at the two-third point, right? Or halfway point. We still have more years ahead. So the next iteration will provide for all those years to come. So, what I'm saying to you is if you're not pleased with where you are, make a change. Period. The Bible actually says, despise not the days of humble beginnings. That means don't hate your boss, open a business. I remember I had friends that were working for obviously here in Detroit, we have, at one point, we had the big 3. Everyone around the country talked about the big 3, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. What was interesting and what I loved about the city of Detroit was the entrepreneurial spirit and drive and the undeniable, unmatchable work ethic, which taught me that if you can succeed in Detroit, you can succeed absolutely anywhere. But what was interesting is I had an opportunity to watch people that had jobs in the plants, right? And they made 6 figures. Some of them, even back in the day, were making over $100,000. And what they would do, they would open a landscaping business, a painting business, a dry cleaners, a food delivery business. They were opening businesses with the earnings from their jobs, their jobs. They opened businesses so that they could get free. But I'll tell you what's interesting. I was getting my shoes polished in the Penobscot building in downtown Detroit, and there was a gentleman that had to be about, at that time, maybe 59, my age. He was my age. So at that point, I had to be in my 20s, and I'm getting my maybe early 30s. I'm getting my shoes shined at the Penobscot building, and I'm sitting in his chair. They would have the two beautiful shoe shine chairs in the lobby of the building. So I'm sitting there, and this guy is just going to work. My shoes look amazing, and I'm listening to him. It's always good to listen. Listen when people are talking. When people are sharing and speaking, they will show you and tell you who they are. Now, it's your responsibility. Do not suspend truth, because when the truth of who the person is actually revealed, believe what they have told you, because sometimes it's the voice of God guiding you to them, from them, around them, or to follow them. So you have to really, really listen. Anyway, he's shining my shoes and he's just going to town. He begins to tell me, now, mind you, I think I was paying $4. No, $5 for the shoe shine. $5. This guy, Shining Shoes, had sent all of his children, 3 sons and a daughter, to the best schools in the state of Michigan. He had 2 kids that had graduated from U of M. He had a daughter that graduated from Michigan State, and I think, the other child was sent out of state, but I can't remember. But the point, 4 of them, and he had sent them all to school, to college, and he paid for it. Shining Shoes. Well, isn't that wild? That's when I began to pay attention to the people that have actually made remarkable revenue around the United States, the historical achievements that people have made, like Mr. Wrigley, who invented Wrigley's gum. Many people that are watching, in our age category, we all remember Wrigley's. But what we may not have known is he became a billionaire selling 5 cents per pack gum. What that taught me is, regardless of where you are in life, if you put your hands on something and allow God to breathe on it, you can actually succeed beyond your wildest dreams. But the Bible says, despise not the days of humble beginnings. So, whatever the position or lot you're in, let's believe as we go through these 365 days of transformation by the end of this year that you will have actually realized what it is that you've been put on the planet to do, and you'll get started. But in the meantime, we have a responsibility to our society, to our culture, to our economy, and to our way of life to step up and say something. We cannot lead from a place of silence. We cannot be silenced in the face of pandemonium. We all must say something before civility and a civil society is actually destroyed. It's not going to happen. Not while I'm here, not while you're here. Because remember, we're only gathering 1 million people to spread the word that we are not blaming. We're actually accepting responsibility for the circumstance that we see ourselves in. And then we can course correct. That's what's so critical. We're not blaming because there's clearly a problem, but we're recognizing that we, all of us, are a part of the solution. And to solve some of the madness that we see on the streets, it's not going to be through handouts. You cannot encourage crazy. You cannot have mercy on crazy. You cannot reward bad behavior at all. But I believe as we begin to enforce and secure consequence to bad behavior, I believe that it's just logical people will course correct because we can't reward it. We can't buy our way out of this. What we have to do is fix this. Make the main thing the main thing. The main thing is not money. The main thing is not possessions. We've got enough of that. This is America. All around the world, people are suffering with lack and poverty and despair. That's not the fix for what we see on our streets. The fix for the streets is what John F. Kennedy said. It's not what your country can do for you that matters. It's what can you do for your country. That's the real question. So are we all going to sit? We're not, listen, the greatest thing, I was sharing this with someone the other day. I said, do you know what's interesting? You're at the age where you receive AARP information. I think he's in his mid 40s. And I said, so you're getting the envelopes and you're able to take those envelopes, look at them, and throw them away because this is definitely not for me. I've reached the age where when the envelopes come, I have to read them. None of us can stop the movement of time. It's coming. And if we sit idly by and watch mayhem and madness as though it's entertainment and folly, the future cannot be good. It cannot go well for us. This must stop. With that being said, tune in to the next episode. I'm about to do it like literally in moments, and it's all about civility. So I want you to tune in. I know you're probably busy and it's time to go to work because it's early in the morning. However, it's an important listen. And what you want to do is, if anything that I've said resonated with you and you agree and it makes sense, all you have to do is like and share. I'm telling you, these young people, they need to hear it. And us older people, we need to accept responsibility because we've allowed this. And now it's time to course correct. I'm so proud of you, so proud that you've chosen to embark on this journey with me. And I'm so excited for what we will see on the other side. Breakthrough is the result of persistent effort, not when we throw our hands up in surrender. So I'm so excited. We will win. We will overcome this moment in time and we will course correct. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of the No Time to Waste podcast. Make it a great one.